Hey everybody, today I'm going to be starting a new feature on the channel where I talk about all the new to me games that I've played from month to month and rank them from my least favourite to my most favourite. So that way you will see my game of the month. So I've played 16 new games in the month of May, so let's get started with number 16. So at number 16 I have On the Rocks. Now On the Rocks is a very light game where you're trying to make these different cocktails by drafting marbles and putting them onto your player boards, trying to fulfill these orders essentially. This game has amazing production value, some of the best production I've seen in a long time, as you have these menu books as your player board. You've got all the recesses in them and you're essentially drawing marbles or drafting marbles and putting them onto these boards, trying to match these order cards. Yeah, really stunning from a visual standpoint and quite a unique theme as well. I've not seen this cocktail making theme used before. For me, this game had a bit of an identity crisis. Obviously with the cocktail theme, it's going to be slightly catered towards the more adult market. However, the gameplay was very basic, extremely child friendly, as you are drawing a number of marbles from the bag or from a bag based on a dice roll, and then you are dropping them off in a Maharaja system in these different bowls, and then picking one of those bowls and allocating it to your player board, trying to match the symbols from your orders. That's pretty much the extent of the game. I feel like the Maharaja system was a bit of gaminess just added into the game just for the sake of it. It seemed a bit superfluous and a bit, just a bit extra for the sake of it, because essentially all the bowls are generally really good because you have so many orders active at the same time. No matter what bowl you take can essentially match a symbol, so it did feel like a bit tacked on. And on top of that as well, there was a bit of card play in the game that again seemed unnecessary, where whenever you fulfilled an order you'd get these bonus cards which could kind of let you manipulate the game a bit, but if you kept hold of them then you just get points anyway, and because the luck in this game is such a huge factor that you'd end up just stockpiling all your cards and just getting points for them. So it was a bit of a miss for me, but really impressed with the way this game looks, and it's nice to see some new themes used in board gaming. At number 15, I have a very popular game with Space Base. Now, Space Base is a game where you are, again, rolling dice, and then you are trying to, whatever dice you roll, you can kind of divide them up into either, using two of the same pip values, the two dice values individually, or compiling them together to take a bigger pip value. And you're going to be acquiring cards, allocating to all these different pip values, and then triggering different bonuses, trying to race to get a number of points. If you're familiar with a game like Machikoro, this is really in the same vein as that one. And I was really looking forward to playing Space Base because I'd heard it was a much improved version of Machikoro, but for me it was really a sideward step. It didn't really do much more than Machikoro did, and I was left a little bit deflated and a bit underwhelmed with it. However, I have heard since that there are some good variants of the game that really do ramp up the gameplay. I played the basic of the basic version, and again, it felt a bit long, it felt a bit stretched out, and it took a long time to get that engine rolling with very small gains for the first 3/4 of the game. So not for me, again, a bit basic, and I can see why it's popular for kids and stuff, but not what I'm looking for. At number 14, I have Bristol 1350. So this is a 2021 release. This one is another game with a quite unique theme, a unique idea, as you are basically trying to evade getting the plague and to escape the city without having the plague. There's a lot of social deduction in this game. There's a lot of kind of logic, I suppose, as you are trying to work out who could potentially have the plague, because you've got a number of cards in your hand, and if you ever go over a certain threshold of these cards, then you're going to get the plague, and then you're basically trying to contaminate everybody to stop them from escaping the city. You are rolling dice again. You're trying to push the carts that you're in forward, I suppose, if you think it's not got any plague on there. You're trying to jump from cart to cart, and all things like this. The reason why it's come quite low on this list is because I did play this game at quite a suboptimal player count, where I fully expect to like this game more when I do play at those higher player counts, because with a social deduction game you want more players. Another game with wonderful production, some really nice components here with these metal carts, a nice kind of player mat. So really like the way the game looks. It has got potential, and this is a bit of a placeholder space for Bristol 1350. At number 13, I have another newish game with Kubitos. Now, Kubitos is a push your luck style game, another game involving dice, so I seem to be playing a lot of dice games recently. This one, you are essentially building an engine or building a network of these dice You're rolling them, you are moving around this track, trying to be the first to win the race, essentially. And then you can invest in getting new dice into your pool and to roll them to get lots of different unique bonuses and things. This is really in the same vein of a game like Quacks of Quedlinburg, where you are again pushing your luck, trying not to go bust. And again, increasing your capability to do things by acquiring new dice instead of the chips as you would in Quacks of Quedlinburg. I do struggle to see why this game is... Well, I know why they've released it, because obviously the popularity of Quacks and Quedlinburg, I think this is going to appeal to those style of gamers. But I do think Quacks does everything better than Kubitos does, and I struggle to see why you'd have both of them, to be honest. So I do prefer Quacks quite a bit to Kubitos, but it's still quite nice. At number 12, I have Hats. Now, Hats is a relatively unknown card filler game that has some quite interesting concepts. This one, you have a player board in the centre of the table, which is going to determine all the values of these different hands, or all these different suits of cards that you can have. And as an action, you are going to essentially play a card from your hand and swap it with one of these ones in the centre, and then put the one in the centre in front of you for endgame scoring, depending on what the centre kind of table is going to show. It's got some weird thinking where you've got to invest in your actions. You've got to be careful about what you're leaving your opponent, because if they have a bunch of cards, then you swap of a certain suit, that is, and then you swap that a card that you've just placed to a high value, and that helps your opponent a lot, then that can really help them win the game. Very tight decisions here. You've only got, I think, 8 actions in the entire game, which is extremely limiting, but in a good way, I think. Some hidden depth here as well, as you've got to consider about what you're sacrificing, which cards you're going to keep back. And it's a nice filler game with some wonderful production, some nice artwork. And I can see this one being relatively successful should the word of mouth spread about it. I do struggle to think, or I do think that it might struggle to hold its own in terms of quite a crowded marketplace for these filler style games. There are a lot of better card games out there, but this one is a good one, way better than average, I think, and it's going to get a little bit more table time for me to see if I really do think it's a keeper or not. At number 11, I have Agropolis. Now, Agropolis is a tiny little card game by Button Shy Games. As you are playing these cards, you're trying to fulfill all these different objectives. You've got 18 cards. On the back of 3 of those cards, we're going to flip 3 of the cards the other way, and they're going to set the criteria that you need to fulfill by the end of the game. You're working together with your opponents to try and get as many points as you can by matching these objectives, by trying to match these different landscapes with one another, and trying to squeeze every single point you can by covering these cards, matching them up and overlaying things. So if you like your puzzly games, this is one to really invest in. A good game that plays solo, and it's nice that it's cooperative as well. I think Button Shy Games do a good job of these tiny little card games like Sprawlopolis, now Agropolis, Circle of the Wagons. This is in the same vein as those, and a bit of a sidestep again from a game like Circle of the Wagons, but with the cooperative element, it might give it a bit of space on your shelf. At number 10, I have Race for the Galaxy. Now, Race for the Galaxy, immensely popular game again. I only recently got this to the table, obviously. This one is a pretty involved card game, as you are building an engine of cards, trying to score as many points as you can by acquiring and then selling resources. This game has the Puerto Rico style mechanism, as you are playing an action card, and if you're the one to play that action card, you get a boosted action, or a kind of improved version of that action if you're the only one to play it. But if everybody plays similar cards or the same cards, then you don't get that bonus action. So it's got some decision there where you've got to try and leech off other people's moves and knowing what you can do from your turn and what's the best move to take. Loads of paths to strategy to take, and again, another game where I'm really scratching the surface of this one. I feel like I need to explore this one a bit more before I get my thoughts out there in a review. But initially, my initial thoughts are positive. I think this game's going to have a lot to offer, and I'm looking forward to digging deeper. The rules are pretty out there. They're pretty hard to digest. There's quite a lot of exceptions, quite a lot of fiddliness, but I think that could pay off as you play this one more and more, and the depth starts to unravel. So again, a placeholder space, and a lot of potential for this one to move up on my list. At number 9, I have Lost Cities. So this is a filler, or classic filler card game by Rainer Knizia. It's a two-player, strictly two-player game, as you are trying to play cards, of certain suits, and then trying to boost your actions or boost the numbers you're playing to try and get victory points. But it's got a strong pushy luck element to it, as both players are fighting for the same cards, and if you don't get enough cards played, you've got a real risk of losing points. And if you try to be a bit greedy and try to get amplifiers and multiply your score at the end, then if you still don't meet that threshold, then you're going to score even more negative points, as your negative points gets amplified as well. Some real nice tension here in this one. Some meaningful decisions about which cards you're going to leave your opponent to take, and which cards you're going to play. Again, some pushy luck here, and it's got a real nice tension and a good level of hand management in this game. And I can see why this is regarded as a classic two-player game. I don't know why this has taken such a long time for me to play it, because I love Knizia games. I love two-player card-style Knizia games, and this one is right up there with the best of this one, and it got my shield of quality. Next up, I have Super Skill Pinball. Now, this is a roll and write game with another pretty unique theme. So I've seen some really nice themes this month, some different ideas in terms of cocktail making, about managing the plague, and now pinball. This one is a pretty involved roll and write game, as everybody has this player map, basically showing a pinball table, and then you're gonna basically have a ball on that sheet, and you're going to be rolling dice, trying to select the dice you want to take to get different combos and trigger different things. Really satisfying game with lots of combos, extremely thematic, and I think this game is wonderful. One of the best roll and write games I've played in a long time. In fact, one of the best roll and write games I've played ever. Really excited to try some of the other boards, because I've only tried one of the boards so far. But initial impressions are extremely good, and I can see this one getting a lot of mileage and a lot of play out of these ones. And again, more replayability there as well, because there are 3 different modules or 3 different maps you can use in every single game you play. So really impressed with this one, lots of combos and everything you want from a roll and write game. So another shield of quality there, but my review is yet to go out. So that is Super Skill Pinball. At number 7, I have Glass Road by Uwe Rosenberg. So this is one of Uwe Rosenberg's lighter games. It's still very Euro. It's a resource management and kind of card play style game. As you are selecting a bunch of cards, you're playing them. If you play a card that nobody else plays, then you get 2 actions, and if you play a card that somebody else plays, then you get 1 of those actions. But you can use that to your advantage by piggybacking off the cards other people play. You are gaining resources, you are laying out this kind of puzzle on your individual player board, trying to get spatial puzzle bonuses. I love the resource management in this game, because you have these resource wheels where when you collect a certain amount of resources, you'll automatically generate other resources, which can be a real taxing decision to make and a hard thing to manage. And for a game that you can condense down into 45 minutes or so, this one has a lot of depth, a lot of strategy, and so much replayability, because there are a ton of tiles in this game to make every game feel different. So really impressed by this one. And it fits a nice niche of being a pretty meaty Euro game in under an hour. So that is Glass Road. At number 6, I have Maharaja. So this is another 2021 game, a recent Kickstarter, and it's a re-implementation of Maharaja from Kramer and Kiesling from years and years ago, but this one has some tweaks in it, some redesigns and some updates by Simone Luciani. This one, you are trying to fight for control of these regions where the Maharaja is going to visit on this big map. You've got individual player powers. You've got this blind bidding action system on these action wheels, which is quite interesting. You've got this network building element of the game as well, as you're trying to invest in these roads. And if other people don't have these shrines on these roads, then they're going to have to pay you money to travel down those roads. So you've got this real economy in this game where you've got to manage your money quite efficiently. You've got to be investing in these different regions. You're trying to manipulate the order in these cities that the Maharaja is going to visit, because you want to be constantly scoring as much as you can. I love the variability and the player powers in this one. I don't think it's as strong as some other Kramer and Kiesling area control games. However, I still do think it's right up there in terms of its quality. I do enjoy this one, and it has stayed in my collection. And I'm looking forward to try some of the different setups and at different player counts. So that is Maharaja at number 6. Now, at number 5, I have another Reiner Knizia game. This one is Modern Art. So I'm a big fan of auction games, and this one is the quintessential auction game, I suppose, as you are constantly starting new auctions, trying to acquire these cards of different artists. And at the end of the round, whoever's the kind of most numerous artist amongst all the players is going to be worth the most money. And every piece of his art or her art is going to be worth a number of money. And the second place that applies to as well, and the third place. But the cool thing about this game is that from round to round, those values compound with one another if they still remain popular. But as soon as they don't meet a certain threshold of popularity, then that worth is going to be worth nothing. So it's got this real autonomy and this real kind of manipulation of the game as you are constantly trying to get the most popular artists, acquire their cards, but of course they're going to be worth more money, so you've got to manage your money to get those artists in the first place. But if you see other people start running away with the most popular artists, you want to try and tank their popularity to make sure they're worth nothing. And that's a real interesting decision. There's some good depth here as well, as you've got to manage your money, not in terms of making sure you can constantly throw bids out there and get the best cards, but because when you are the auctioneer and people bid on your items, they actually pay you the money, which is obviously another wrinkle to the game where money is essentially your points, so you've got to be careful about what you're awarding to other players in the first place. Extremely streamlined game. Lots of fun here. It has a nice party vibe, but still with some deep gameplay. And I really like those style of games. And Modern Art was a big hit for me. At number 4, I have Fruticular. Now, Fruticular is probably one of the biggest surprises of the year for me. This game got some pretty nasty reviews out there, some pretty negative reviews, as people really did criticise mainly the production, and I will say the production is subpar. It has some pretty questionable decisions and some pretty questionable component quality. However, the gameplay is fantastic as you are playing cards down, not only to get bonus powers, but also to try and break initiative order, because this is a worker placement game and some of those worker placement spots are extremely sought after, so going first can be really important. But going first will get you fewer actions. You've got 2 different types of workers, which can be important because they get boosted by going to certain spaces. You've got this real commodity speculation as you're acquiring these different fruits, trying to sell jams when they're worth the most value. And it's a real nice economic puzzle. It's got some really cool investments in this game as you have this market, and you go in there to get these either one-off bonuses or these ongoing player powers, and all of them are extremely interesting. And I was super impressed by this game. I really am surprised why this one hasn't taken off more than it has. It had a pretty underwhelming Kickstarter campaign where it just about met the just about fulfilled. But it's a shame to see this one hasn't taken off as it could have done, because the gameplay is rock solid, and it's got a nice aesthetic despite the despite the components, but the gameplay itself is way up there for me. And certainly a candidate for pleasant surprise of the year. That is Fruticular. And now into the top 3. So at number 3, I have Santa Maria. Now, Santa Maria, I suppose it's pretty natural to think I would like this game. This one is a dice drafting game. Dice drafting is probably my favourite mechanism out of anything. This one, you are building up your individual player boards with these different buildings, which are essentially different actions, and then you're triggering all these different buildings in kind of in a linear order, either from left to right or from top to bottom. By not only using your own individual player dice that other people can't access, but also by drafting them from the main board. And this is a real spatial puzzle here that I find extremely satisfying. You can end up taking some really meaty turns if you line up all your buildings properly. You're trying to climb tracks to get points, you're trying to climb tracks to get new dice, you're trying to invest in these different endgame criteria and ongoing bonuses. You're trying to fulfill orders and get another bit of an engine going as well. Again, ticks all the boxes for me, but that doesn't, and apart from the individual player boards, it doesn't do a tremendous amount differently to a lot of other games out there, but those player boards are really where the gameplay lies for me, and really where this game holds its own identity, and I find it extremely satisfying. I love the puzzle aspect to it, and I think it's a fantastic, well-rounded game, which is a lot of fun, and can be played in a relatively short time frame as well. So very accessible, but still some deep decisions here, and fun from start to finish in 3 very simple, very digestible rounds. So very impressed with Santa Maria. And number 2, I have Chinatown. So Chinatown is another streamlined game, so pure in its mechanisms. This one goes back over 20 years now. And this is a negotiation style game, another economic style game as you're trying to get as much money as you can. You basically have different, I think it's 5 different regions of, I suppose, little clusters of towns. And you are trying to lay these different shops down in these regions to try and combine them together to generate more money. But the trick of this game is that at the start of each round, kind of randomly, I suppose, or semi-randomly, you're drafting for these buildings, and you're laying your player pieces or these tokens down on these different buildings to show that you are the owner of those buildings. But after that's done, you can pretty much negotiate anything in this game. You can say, look, I'll buy this building off you, I'll build this type of shop off you, I'll give you this much money if you give me this. And the negotiation in this game is absolutely mind-blowing. It's phenomenal. Definitely the best negotiation game I've ever played, but with some still good, strong gameplay element below that in terms of combining your buildings together, trying to really ramp up the almost set collection style economy that you can get, and weighing up what's going to be worth to you, what things are worth to you in order to strike those deals. And I think that's just really good. It has a great pacing where things are constantly fluctuating in value, and it really is a game you have to kind of play for yourself to understand the satisfaction of striking these deals throughout this game. It is wonderfully done and has really stood the test of time well for me, and I'm so impressed that this game came out over 20 years ago, because it still feels wonderfully streamlined, and all the fun is amongst the players rather than being tied up in fiddly mechanisms and rules. So Chinatown, phenomenal game, and actually achieved my Elite Shield. And finally, at number 1, by quite some distance, this is Brass Birmingham. So Brass Birmingham is regarded as one of the best board games ever. This one is another economic style game, as you're building a network of initially canals and then trains. You're trying to sell these resources and trying to generate a points engine by flipping those buildings over. Trying to match them with certain industries, trying to offload coal. You can use coal with other players, you can use metal with other players. It really is so much interaction embedded in this game, not only using your own networks, but trying to sponge off other people's networks as well. So much depth in this game that I can't cover in a short clip like this. I've just got a review brewing on this one, so hopefully I'll get that one out in the next couple of days and you can get my more in-depth thoughts on this one. But spoiler alert, I absolutely love this game. Certainly my game of the month. Phenomenal, amazing, just incredible game, and certainly going to be a mainstay of my collection for a long time to come, because this is right up there with the best of the best, and certainly deserves all the acclaim it's achieved over the years. So that's 16 games that I've played in the month of May. On the whole, really good month for me. Enjoyed the vast majority of these games, which is always a good thing. So hopefully there's something on here that's piqued your interest and something you want to check out, and you've got value from these. And of course, if you want to check them out in a bit more detail, either check out the reviews that I've already uploaded, or keep an eye out for in the next couple of weeks where I'll get the other reviews out. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have, please hit like and subscribe to my channel, and check out my other videos too. For everyone else, I'll see you next time on Chairman of the Board. Bye.